What is up? Today I'm going to be showing you how this roofer closed an $100,000 roofing job. It was a residential job, actually, not a commercial job. So I'm going to be showing you how this roofer did it and how you could do this consistently and how we are able to do this consistently. If you don't already know who I am Cole. I'm one of the co-founders of NCT Media. We basically help contractors, so roofers, window contractors, siding contractors, bathroom remodelers, kitchen remodelers, things like that, generate jobs for their business consistently by sending them qualified leads and appointments that are completely exclusive. So we're kind of not necessarily a lead vendor, but also not necessarily, in a marketing agency, kind of a little bit of both. So we basically partner with contractors all across the United States, and we send them leads and appointments that are qualified and exclusive to their business alone. For roofing specifically, and just most of our industries, we don't typically run campaigns that are just targeted at super high ticket jobs, unless it's like a metal roof campaign. We do that. And I'm gonna kind of get into that a little bit. And honestly, I don't necessarily recommend that you only target high ticket jobs. I do think it is much better to actually scale in that mid ticket range, like 15, 20K a roof, maybe upwards to 30K a roof, but typically targeting that mid range ticket of 10 to 20K per roof, typically falling in that 15, 18 range. But I recommend that just because you are targeting a much larger percentage of the market. The people that actually can afford 50K, 100K projects is going to be a very small percentage of the market, but you are making a lot more money per job, right? So typically it's going to be very good if you want to keep your team lean. Maybe you want another division of your company that targets those metal roof jobs or those high ticket projects on some mansions and things like that, which is not a bad idea, okay? But typically the clients that we work with and the clients that we scale, we have clients doing millions of dollars per month with us. And I'm not saying by any means that if you work with us, you are going to do millions of dollars. I don't even, care if you do end up working with us. I'm just saying this as more so social proof, okay? But those clients that do that much, they're not targeting high ticket jobs. Yes, some high ticket jobs might come through, but typically they are getting jobs between that 10 and 20K range, like I already said, right? So that's kind of what I recommend. I recommend a higher volume operation, but also it depends on your life, your company, what your goals are, etc. So I'm going to be talking about in this video, I'm going to be speaking to the people that do want to take the premium play, as you see on screen. And I'm going to show you how to do that effectively in 3 steps, okay? The third one is the most important one by far, but all 3 of them are pretty crucial in terms of getting high ticket jobs. So let's dive right in. The 3 things that you're going to learn today is the numbers game, the targeting strategies, and the messaging, okay? So 2 and 3 are kind of similar to one another, just different kind of ways of targeting your ideal customer. But number 1 is very important. It's kind of the foundation, okay? So each one is important to the other, but let's get into number 1, the numbers game. So the numbers game here is, especially if you're used to 10, 15K jobs, you're not used to paying a lot or spending a lot in marketing dollars to acquire these $75,000, $100,000 jobs, right? You are kind of used to paying maybe 1, 2K to get a $15,000 job. And if you're doing that, that's absolutely incredible. And I would recommend you scale into that. But if, for whatever reason, you want to open up a new division or whatever you're trying to do here, you need to not expect to spend only $1,000 or $2,000 to acquire $75,000 jobs. Like I said, you are lowering the amount of people that you could target. What does that mean? Well, in terms of ads, that means your CPMs are going to be increased, right? Which is essentially how much it costs you to put your ad in front of 1,000 people, right? So before, maybe your CPMs are $30, $40, $50, but now, since you're targeting a way smaller, population of people, your CPMs might be triple, 4x, etc., right? So what does that mean? Assuming the same conversions, right? Let's say you get a booking or a lead for every 1,000 people your ad is showed in front of. That means if you 4x your CPMs, you're 4xing your lead cost essentially, right? assuming all the other conversions are the exact same. Okay. And this applies also with other things, like let's say you're cold calling, right? Your list is going to be, you're going to have to buy, let's say 10,000 leads, cold leads, and you're going to have to narrow that list down. So now your cost per qualified lead is going to be much higher. Okay. Or, maybe you're just dialing the list raw and you have, certain qualification things in place. This also goes for door knocking. It's just how business works when you decide to lower your TAM, your total addressable market. Okay. So you're lowering the amount of people that you could actually target, and it's usually going to cost more per person. Okay. So I hope that makes sense. But that means your marketing budget and your cost of acquiring a customer is going to be much higher than getting those typical $10,000 to $15,000, $20,000 jobs here. Okay. So here's kind of the math, so the numbers, and it's going to vary heavily on the market, how much population you're targeting, how good you are at closing. There's so many variables here, right? But where in roofing, let's say you're chasing a $30, maybe $60, $70 lead cost. I said 30 to 40 here, but that's on the low end, right? Like most markets, you're not going to be getting $30 to $40 lead costs consistently at scale. I don't want to hear anybody in the comments that's saying, oh, I get $20 lead costs in roofing. Are you spending over $300, $400, $500 per day? I highly doubt it, okay? And if you are, your population size is most likely very large. And if you're doing that, with a lower population size, congratulations. It is definitely difficult. And you need to get a bunch of winning ad creatives. And we produce hundreds of creatives every single week just to achieve results like that for our clients. Okay. We have a whole team and, system just for that purpose, but, I digress. Okay. So the cost per lead though, that you should expect is a minimum of $100 per lead, most likely upwards of $200 per lead if you're actually properly doing these next two steps. Okay. So yeah, 5 to 15% close rate. This is every lead, so not every booking. Probably, if you're doing these next two steps well, you could see something like that because your qualified lead and your show rate is going to be pretty dialed in and solid, but it also assumes that you know how to close, right? So if you're booking, 5 of those leads into appointments, maybe 4 of those leads into appointments, and you have good processes, you're going to close 1 to 2 of them, leaving you, around 5 to 15% close rate. Okay. Then acquisition costs could be up to $5,000, right? It could be less. Okay. But I just want to put that number there to really just emphasize that you need to be willing to ditch out thousands and thousands of dollars per job, right? But your jobs are going to be huge. So it's all comes down to the profit at the end of the day. Business is all about profit. If you're not making profit, why are you in business? If you're not profiting, you essentially just have a nonprofit organization and you're just doing charity work, okay? And most of you probably don't want to do that. Some of you, God bless you if you do. That is very generous, okay? But most of you probably want to make some money, probably want to sustain yourself and make some profit, okay? So let's, now that we got the numbers out of the way, now that you kind of have it implemented in your mind that you need to be willing to pay $5,000, maybe even more per job. Now that that's kind of in your head here, let's move on and show you actually how to actionably land these leads and land these jobs. Targeting strategies that work. So now this is targeting in terms of your ad targeting settings, right? I would say there's 2 main things to targeting, maybe 3. But there's 2 main things to targeting, which is kind of your ad setup in settings on your ad campaign. And secondly, it's going to be your ad messaging, which is going to be the 3rd section that we get into. And that's probably the most crucial thing with targeting, especially in 2026. Post Andromeda. I might be speaking Japanese to some of you, but just to simplify it, it is incredibly important in 2026 that you have your ad messaging dialed in. Now, these next 2 things, I am speaking purely, in most of this video, I'm speaking purely about running ads. Google still applies, TikTok still applies, mainly Facebook. But let's dive into how to actually set this targeting up here. Okay, so geographic and demographic precision. Okay, so I'm actually going to pull up, this ads tab here and scroll down to the targeting settings. Okay, So the most important part of the targeting settings here is going to be your locational targeting. Because if I target, let's say, let's say Chicago, that's it. Okay. Chicago is a major city, right? Which means there is majority of Chicago is going to be low income areas, right? Even in like a 50-mile radius, but more likely 25-mile radius, it's going to be very low income areas. Okay. You want to check that off, by the way. That's not a good setting. Check that off because it's going to go outside of your targeting. So you don't want to do that. But that is going to cause issues, right? So there's two things that you could do to combat this. Okay. Very first thing is you want to click further limit the reach of your ad. Click this one, click continue. Some of you might not have that update. They changed it a lot, but you kind of want to navigate to the detailed targeting section, and then you could do search up income, right? And then now you have household income targeting. Okay. So you probably want to keep it top 5 and top 10%. I would look up in your specific area what the top 10% income is, the household, but you want to essentially target the household income that can actually afford your ticket, right? The only thing here is you just need to make sure that you're doing this properly. This could be a very detrimental setting to add in your ads, and it could explode your lead costs if you're doing it improperly. So I would kind of see if you have previous high ticket jobs closed in the past, what it kind of looks like. What's the typical household income of people that actually close? What's the typical household income of people, that I talk to that don't close, that DQ because of financial reasons? And then you want to target within that range, okay? So that's super important. You don't want to limit it too much, but it's going to drastically decrease your audience size. I don't know if Facebook actually updated when I added that. Okay, it did. You see how it was 6 million? And then when I go income 10%, okay, we don't need to do top 5 and top 10%. So yeah, we don't need to do the top 5% and top 10%. That's redundant, obviously. So it cuts it in a sixth, right? And this is exactly what I was talking about in lowering your TAM. Okay, so that's one way to do it. Or you could do this for good measure. And I would recommend doing this because Facebook is kind of annoying targeting outside of your area. They just love not listening to you sometimes. And there's ways to combat it, but I'm going to show you kind of what to do here. So we're going to search up Chicago, for example. Okay, so you want to enter, a city that you're targeting here. For example, Chicago, right? Like we were doing. And then household median income. And then we can look at each and every zip code and see, which zip codes are higher incomes. Okay, and you can see here there's not that many in Chicago, so you probably shouldn't be targeting, super higher ticket in Chicago. And then over here, closer to the water, obviously, household income's a little higher. Around the outskirts, it's a little lower, as you can see. So you want to kind of play around with this, look at your areas and figure out what the income is. You could also see like colors right here. So the darker, the higher income. So we could easily just see, these ones a little higher. This one's a little higher, right? This one's lower. The light ones are super low. And you could essentially, pick and choose what zip codes you want to target. Right, that is super good way to do it. They have a bunch of options here. This is called simplemaps.com. So yeah, that's another way you can do it. And then you can manually make a list of high income zip codes and add it to your sheet, right? They also have down here, as you can see, they have a bunch of zip codes and then the income, right? So you could pretty much just take, if you want to take everything over 100K, you could copy like this, okay? Copy all those, right? Yeah, and you could also get a good idea of what top 10% looks like in the area on Facebook as well. So you want to know the total of how many zips are here, and then you could look at the top X%. So if I were to take this to a sheet, I would just paste it in the sheet, see how many rows we got, and then I would just do top 10% and see what that looks like, right? So that's kind of what we want to do for targeting now. Now, the last thing and the most important thing is the messaging framework. So this is what your ads say, what your ads look like. What message do your ads get across, okay? So if you're going for premium jobs, you leading with starting at 5997 at your offer, or you leading with the price, and that being the primary benefit of working with you, that is going to obviously target people that are lower income. It's going to target more mid-tier jobs, people that care more about, like, let me get a new roof for a good price and like kind of check this off my list, rather than let me get a premium high quality roof. So you want to position your company with authority. You want to have very, problem focused ads. You can say something about a discount. Everybody loves discounts, so that's fine. But you need to make it very clear that this is going to cost a lot of money, very clear that this is about premium material, the best jobs, and all that stuff. So here's kind of how you do it. So the way that you want to do this is by looking at your videos and looking at your images and look at everything about them. You have the text on the screen, you have the videos or images on the screen, and then you have the sound, maybe the actor, things like that, the person in the video itself, right? So the most important thing is going to be the text on screen / what the ad says, okay? And the ad should be primarily about getting a really premium, high quality roof, talking about why your company is the best authority to do so. So maybe showing previous job transformations, explain a little bit why your material is better than other companies, why your jobs are better than other companies. Obviously targeting people that want like metal roofs and things like that. That's obviously going to cost more. Tile roofs, I believe this 100K job was a tile roof. That's going to help. But that is kind of the goal here, right? And then additionally, you want to show in your ad, in terms of video, you want to show in your ad big houses with nice roofs, things like that, right? Because what is that going to relate to? It's going to relate to people with big houses, not regular houses. It's not going to relate to people with small houses. It's going to relate to people with big houses. So who is that going to bring through your ad? People with bigger houses. It's not going to completely eliminate people that have smaller houses, obviously. So you need to have every single one of these in line, but it's going to relate more to people with bigger houses. And then your actor needs to look like the people or the person in your ad, or it could be you, which is fine as well. But you could have somebody in your ad that's like a homeowner, and they need to look like the people in that area that have, big homes. Maybe they're older, maybe they dress a certain way. It's going to be a little bit dependent on the area, but you want to have your actor relate to those people, the words to relate to those people, their pain points to relate to those people, right? Maybe they're older and they care about their children's protection, and a metal roof is your selling point, and you kind of sell the high tech of the metal roof and how it looks like a shingle, but it's really metal, right? There's a lot of benefits and things that you could do there, right? And then a little bonus tip is on your landing page or on your form, ask questions and DQ them, right? So this is kind of the safety net, okay? You have your targeting set up properly, you have your messaging set up properly, but there's still going to be people that come through that aren't your cup of tea. They aren't in alignment with what you actually sell. They are DQs, okay? So on your landing page, you could ask questions that actually, filter those people out. And then what does it tell Facebook? What does it tell Google? What does it tell your targeting? It tells the algorithm that this certain type of person with these certain type of interests and all these different data points that they have on every single user. They have over 52,000 data points on every single user, which is a bit scary, but you also should utilize it, right? It's a absolute hack. But essentially, you want to tell the algorithm that person and that type of person is not a fit. They shouldn't, come through the ad. They're not going to actually generate as a conversion that you're optimizing for. Therefore, you're telling them no longer, put my ad in front of these people. Okay. So now it's a good feedback loop to the algorithm where your ad tells a certain message. The AI and the algorithm sees the ad, sees the targeting you have set up, and they're like, okay. And then you want your landing page and your safety net to have that complete that kind of feedback loop, right? And make sure that what the AI reads is in alignment with what you actually want and what you're actually optimizing for and getting. Okay. So that's kind of the whole strategy behind this messaging framework. Okay. And yeah, that's pretty much it. If you do all these things, you are very likely to be successful in generating high ticket jobs. Okay. If this is kind of sounds like Japanese to you, maybe you're not the most marketing or technical minded, you might be a more sales minded person, or just, you're a business owner, whatever it is. I would recommend that you click the top link in the description to book a call with somebody on my team to talk to them and see if you're a good fit for our processes. I don't say that as some scarcity tactic. We genuinely don't work with everybody. There's only a certain type of contractor that we can actually help, certain sales processes, certain wants. You're down to like kind of the way you think about business. And if our business philosophies kind of align, we don't want to work with everybody. We don't want to work with people that we know we probably won't succeed for. It's a waste of their time and money and our time and money as well. We usually don't make money on the first package or the second package of leads or appointments. It takes some time. So we like to optimize for high quality partnerships. So click that link and book a call. If not, all good. That's why I make these videos, to provide value. Check out the video, apply what you learned here. Let me know in the comments if it was helpful. Subscribe and stay tuned for future videos. Peace out.